the Trump plan is being turned into a tool of pressure. Solovyov's logic between war, business, and another Ukraine. In Vladimir Solovyov's late monologue, several key lines of contemporary Russian propaganda can be discerned around the figure of Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and the Trump plan. The legitimization of any peace initiatives on the Kremlin's terms, the economic justification for continuing the war, and the delegitimization of Ukrainian statehood. 1. If the US took the text, it's already American. Whitewashing the plan's origins, Solovyov begins by defending Witkoff and the peace plan itself. He takes the Ukrainian and European narrative. The plan was written in Moscow and expands on it. Even if the Russians did indeed propose the initial version, as soon as the Americans said, "Interesting, we'll consider it," and put the document on the table, the plan ceased to be Russian and became American. Thus, the very problem of the possible Russian origin of the agreement's architecture is erased. The important role is played not by the author, but by the one currently presenting the document to the world, the White House. This tactic simultaneously accomplishes two goals. 1. To deflect accusations that Moscow is allegedly hiding behind Trump. The plan is now officially American, and any talk of a Kremlin project is declared manipulation. 2. To normalize the idea that the mediator has the right to collect the wishes of the parties and transform them into a unified agenda, thereby legitimizing the inclusion of Russia's key demands, territory, NATO, army, in the text, as a natural result of negotiating practice. Referring to the experience of people who worked in negotiating groups, Solovyov explains, "The task of the experts is to package the agreed-upon text in such a way that the leader, in this case, Trump, accepts it." Against this backdrop, the published conversation between Witkoff and Ushakov is described not as a violation, but as the normal work of a mediator. Now about Witkoff. It's an amazing story. Let's assume this theoretically. They accuse the Russians of writing the plan, and now Witkoff is promoting this plan. This plan was written by Russia. They say this in Ukraine. The globalists in Europe say this, and so on. They explain it separately for the dumb and for the idiots. Yes, it's a Russian plan if they wrote it before the Americans said so. Oh, interesting. We'll look into it. But as soon as they looked at it and put it on the table, and they say, "We see it this way. This is no longer a Russian plan. This is an American plan." They got a European plan in exactly the same way. There is a European plan. He also acted in exactly the same way. What's surprising about this, I can't understand. The Americans position themselves as mediators, conventionally speaking, as negotiators, who conduct discussions with all sides. Naturally, they need proposals from each side. Forgive me, I'll say this separately, they're liars. 2. America for peace, Europe for war. Economics as a justification for a protracted conflict. Solovyev then moves on to the central political economic framework. The US is supposedly interested in a peaceful end to the war because it sees prospects for major projects with Russia after the conflict, rare earth metals, the Arctic, energy resources. Peace is a prerequisite for future mutually beneficial business. Europe, on the contrary, needs the war to continue. 800 billion for the militarization of the EU, growth in defense company stocks, investments by German pension funds in the military-industrial complex. Proof is immediately provided. Mere talk of a peace plan is enough to cause German defense company stocks to fall, and therefore pension funds to lose as well. This automatically leads to the thesis, European elites have an objective interest in keeping the war going. Otherwise, their financial structures will collapse and they will be held accountable for the inefficient use of resources. This narrative accomplishes several important things. Shifts the discussion of the war from the realm of aggression and international law to the realm of who's making money on what. Creates a moral inversion. The US and Russia are pragmatic actors seeking peace and future deals. The Europeans are cynical beneficiaries, willing to sacrifice Ukrainians for the sake of their budgets and pension systems. 3. The degradation of Ukrainian legitimacy. Who has the right to sit at the table? The next section concerns the legitimacy of the Ukrainian government. Solovyov reiterates Putin's thesis: Parliament is the only legitimate body, and the president is politically and legally nothing. This leads to a clear conclusion. Show us which of you has the right to sit at the negotiating table. We'll deal with whoever resolves the issue in Parliament, and then go ahead and fight among yourselves. At the same time, the idea of a fifth column and sound politicians and intelligence agencies in Ukraine with whom it's possible to work is being discussed. Ukrainian military intelligence chief Budanov is mentioned as a potential recipient of these hints. But the message itself is more important. Even if the current president doesn't exist, there are people within the Ukrainian elite whom Russia is willing to accept as negotiators, provided they adhere to the line agreed upon with Washington and Moscow. Think, analyze, draw conclusions, and don't be fooled. This was the program Empire of Lies.